Okay, so welcome to Digital Tools to Optimize for Literature Review. Maybe my name is not Marcella. There you go. My name is Marcella Sister. I am a liaison librarian at the McGill Libraries, and I am also the coordinator of the Digital Scholarship Hub. And you can always reach out and ask questions. We do a lot of programming on digital tools for your research. Okay. So most of the tools that we will be exploring today rely on algorithms. So I wanted to have a little bit of a 30-second disclaimer when we work with algorithms, because algorithms are not neutral and they may have overt and covert biases. So as we engage with these tools, we encourage you to think about this in a critical way. If you want to know more about it, I will be sending the slides later today. And there is it's linked to a really good book that's called Algorithms of Oppression that talks a bit more about it, but just something that we want you to be aware as we work with these tools. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm just trying to, there we go. Okay, so what are we going to be doing today? The first thing I'm going to be doing is we're going to be looking at tools to discover and connect literature. Then we're going to look at tools that help us engage with literature. And then I'm going to share 1 or 2 things that I also find useful. Perfect. Okay. So before we even get into the tools I want to share, I feel like we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is ChatGPT. We have been hearing about GPT so much lately. So I want to have 30 seconds to a minute to talk about what it can do, what it can't do when it comes to research, so that we're all on the same page and that you're not spending time doing things that it can't do. So the first thing that it cannot do is provide real citations. If you go to ChatGPT and ask it for citations, it will make something up because it cannot search the internet. It also cannot provide in-depth information. What you get is going to be pretty superficial. It cannot summarize content from the internet because it does not have access to the internet. It, cannot produce or analyze non-text materials. So if you wanted it to analyze picture, it's one thing if it's a picture that has been analyzed a lot before. So like we have that knowledge in text, but if it's not, if it's an image that has not been analyzed as much, you will not actually see that. And it cannot be free of biases because we talked about before, like, algorithms are not neutral and they are, they have both overt and covert biases. There are a lot of examples on how to do this or how to see these biases. I'll give you an example that I've worked is I asked ChatGPT to create a recommendation letter for a female PhD student and a male PhD student. And it was very clear what the adjectives that it was using for the female and the male student were and how they were different and what they were conveying. But let's talk about what it can actually do. So it can help you build searches. So I'll show you an example that I have. There we go over here. Can everyone see ChatGPT? You can just put it in the chat if you can. So the screen that I'm showing, like, can you see the screen that I'm showing that I'm on ChatGPT? Yes, perfect. I'm sorry that I'm asking, but usually I teach on 2 separate screens. So it's a lot easier for me to know when I'm toggling between the different windows, but because I'm recording, I'm on only 1 screen, so like I'm getting more confused. Okay, perfect. So for example, I needed to do a search and I was looking for things on not comic books, but I was looking at graphic novels in Asia, but I didn't want just manga or what we commonly think about when we think about graphic novels in Asia. So I wanted to search for the term graphic novels and then each country in Asia. But it was taking me a long time to write that search. So I actually asked ChatGPT to write that search for me. And then the first time I did it, I had to be more specific, but then it actually gave me a Boolean search where I was able to just paste this into a search box and just search this. I also did it with indigenous nations. This one was not as good as the Asian countries one. And I would have like played around with it. That also, if you are in medicine, there are better hedges or better searches already built that you can search. But it's a great thing if you're trying to get some, if you want to get started or save some time. Someone asked the OpenAI is great. Yes, OpenAI is, at least for now, It's this ChatGPT, and it is actually free, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but for now it is free. And then the other thing I have found it really useful to do is, for example, I pasted the CV of a professor at McGill and asked it to write a bio for that person, and it actually did. So those are things that we can use it. Obviously, we always want to check because it's a machine, but it's a good way to save some time. You can get some help with, I use it a lot when I have to write difficult emails. You can use it to write suggestions, to get suggestions in your writing. So there are uses for ChatGPT in research. It's just that those users are not searching for information. That is not something that it's good at. Okay, just gonna see there are no more questions. So we're gonna start sharing. We're start working on discovering and connecting literature. For this, what we're going to do is I have 4 tools now, I think, that I show you. Yes, I have 4 tools. Every time I teach this workshop, I keep adding more tools. So I'm hoping we'll be able to stay within the hour. But okay. So, hopefully we will get there. But in the meantime, we'll try. We might need to go faster at some point. So yeah, so I have 4 different tools that we're going to use. They do similar things and different things. You may know some of them already. My hope for you is that you'll be able to find a tool that works for you and helps you discover more literature. The way we're going to do it is I'm going to be sending you the link to the tool, and I'm going to send you what I will be entering into that search box to search. If you have something else you want to use, totally fine. It's really up to you. You don't have to do what I do, but if you want to follow along, you can do that. The only one here for both Research Rabbit and Elicit, you need to have at least a Google account. So you might not, because of timing, you might not be able to follow along. So you may just want to watch and then do it on your own time. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna leave the, gonna close. Nope, I'm not gonna do that. Actually, yes, I'm gonna do it. Yeah, I'm just gonna close. Let's see if Google will let me leave. Yeah, perfect. So we're gonna start with Insightful, which I'm going to share the link with everyone. I'm gonna put it in the chat. And I see someone asking if you can use it to write a letter of intent for a graduate program. You can, regarding OpenAI, but I would say maybe read it. So you can use it for inspiration, but you still want to put some of yourself in there. Okay, perfect. So I am sending the link for Insightful. I'll talk a little bit about what Insightful does and some of these tools do, and then we actually will take a look at it. I think I'm just not going to go full on presentation mode because I think it'd be easier to toggle between the different windows when I do this. Okay, so we might all be familiar with the common ways of searching, which is we have a text block and we enter some keywords and then we get some results. And that is a great way of searching. But I wanted to introduce you to 2 different ways of searching, which is what we're going to do with these tools. One of them is called Snowball Searching. And that is when we look at the references of relevant articles that we have found. So we found an article that we really like, and we're going to look backwards. We're going to look at what sources that article is citing, because probably they're going to be interesting to us. So that's called Snowball Searching. The other one we have is citation searching, where we do the opposite. Instead of looking backwards, we're going to be looking forward. Especially, it might be harder if our article is from, I don't know, 2021, 2022. But if I have an article that's from 2008, I want to see how that conversation has evolved. So I want to look at who cited this article that I really like, because chances are I'm going to be interested in what we have there. So this is another way of discovering literature. And one more thing before we go to Insightful that I want to share is article graphs. So a lot of the tools that we have will show you some kind of article graph. This one is from Insightful that you can see. And I just want to explain really quickly what they are so that when we look at them, we can understand them. So article graphs are made up of nodes, and they're called edges, but they're lines. So the nodes are the circles, the edges are the lines. The nodes are the articles. So each article is a circle. The lines mean citations. So it means that these two articles are connected because one article cites the other. Relationships are always unidirectional because that's how time works. This means that the two articles can never cite each other, because for an article to cite another article, it needs to be written after the first article has been published. So we cannot cite things that are not that are in different timelines. I have questions. Safari or Google Chrome for the tools. I'm on Chrome. I have never tested them on Safari. I have a PC, so I am on Chrome. So I would recommend to open Chrome. But I've never had an issue with these workshops where people were having issues with Safari. So I would say, but I know for sure that everything works on Chrome. Okay, I'm going to come back to what we're talking about. So yeah, so relationships are unidirectional. That means that one thing can only cite something that has happened in the past or has been written in the past. The size of our node, the size of our circle, will tell us how important it is, which is somewhat based on citations. And then the color will tell us how recent it is. So if you look at the example we have here, the older things are lighter, the newer things are darker. And we will see this with quite a few. So last thing I'll mention, and then we'll actually go to Insightful, is that Insightful works with two algorithms, or more than two, but the ones we're looking at is one of them. It's called Similarity, and it looks for papers that are citing the same sources as your seed paper. So as the paper we're going to enter. They work, imagine they're like social media follow suggestions, like, oh, like your friends follow this person, you might want to follow this person. And sorry, I just have a question. And then so for importance, we are going to look at a few different things. It uses PageRank, which is a Google algorithm, and it locates the most cited papers in a topic, but it's not only about citations, it's also looking at other papers that are being cited and things like that. Okay, perfect. So before we get to Insightful, while we I have a question. Is Insightful connected to Google Scholar? From where does is data? No, it's not. I think it's getting it from Semantic Scholar, if I'm not mistaken. Insightful is really good. If you go into their page, they're very transparent with how they get their data, how their algorithms work. So if you want to spend more time, you can definitely do that. But it's getting it from PubMed. It's getting it from a variety of sources, but they're all legit. So if you look at Insightful, we have two different ways of searching. We're going to be looking at both, but we're going to start with this one on the left, which will help us analyze or get more related content for one individual article. So I'm just going to send you, I'm going to get my sticky notes, and I'm just going to send you the URL or the DOI for what we're going to be searching. Sorry, I'm just going to send to everyone. There we go. So this is the article that I'm going to be searching for. Again, like if you want to do something else, you can. You can either search by paper title, by DOI. DOI, if you've never heard of it, is Digital Object Identifier, and it is like the student number for the article. It's unique. Each article has a unique DOI, so you can always like find it really quickly. That is what I'm sending with you. Is sent you the DOI, which is a very quick way to finding. But you can also search for the article title. So once we put it here, we're going to click on search, and then it's going to do our analysis. So it's telling me that's been cited 223 times. It only cites 16 sources. It was published so in 2005. So a little bit of information about that. I don't care right now. We're going to come here. We have our graph. People get really impressed by the article graphs. They're okay. But they're not what I find the most interesting for Insightful. So I'm just going to keep moving on. The first thing that we have are similar papers. So, papers that cite the same papers that we looked at. And I have a list. If I click on the plus sign, it will just add it to my seed papers. So my graph will change. And then instead of creating a a report for each paper. It creates sort of like a Franken paper where it looks at all the citations for all the papers that I put in there, and then it creates my graph and it creates my my list of similar papers and things like that, so that you can sometimes get more specific to the topic that you want. One thing that's important to know is that what this is doing, we could talk about Snowball Searching and citation searching. Sorry, something just fell in my house. So what Insightful does is it looks at a paper and it looks at who cited it and then who is it citing, and then it runs that same process twice, so to 2 levels. It doesn't go beyond 2 levels because that is just too much, and it would kind of like encompass like way too much literature. So it just runs it twice. So it does the citation and the Snowball searching for the original article, and then for all the other articles that came up in that original search. So we have our similar papers. So these are newer papers in the field. They cite the same people that my original article is citing. Then we have our most important papers, which are those who tend to be older, and those are who have been sort of like considered most important, usually have the most citations, are the most influential in the field, very useful. We have our review papers, which are usually reviews like systematic or scoping reviews. Okay. And then if we keep going down, we have a few other things, because like there's a lot of programs that will do this. This is what I love about Insightful. We have the recent paper about the top 100 authors. We have the most important recent papers. So it kind of like it mixes our similar papers and our most important into one. So we can find what are the most important newer papers. And then it has other data, like, for example, who are the top authors in this field? So if you're starting a PhD program, if you're starting a master's program, and you want to identify people that you think you should be following, that you should be looking into their research, then this is a great way to identify these kinds of people. It also identifies the institutions where these papers are coming from. So maybe, if you're finishing your master's or PhD, you're looking to go into a postdoc, this might be a good place for you to look into, like, oh, where should I try to go? And then if you're trying to publish, it also shows you what are the top journals for this particular field. So it will give you great places where you can actually publish your article that you are working on. Do we have 2 questions? Okay, so can this still be used for papers that are difficult to find? Not automatically generated for full, sorry, I can't see something, for full text by software with confidence. You could. I never tried it, but this should have all the articles written. I see something all men. This is, yeah, it's possible that it's all men. Like, we're looking at the list of top authors. It's a possibility. And then can we categorize the papers based on review or research? No, it will do it only like this. Over here, it will not do it otherwise. So we'll just do it like, you can see what are the review papers, but if not, it will just show them to you as they are according to the algorithm. Okay, so I find this pretty cool. I don't know about you. I'm just going to move a little bit quickly because I just want to make sure that we have time to do absolutely everything. But we will be looking at things. So this is one way to do it. They now have a Zotero plugin. This is actually new. I had not seen it. So you may just be able to connect it to your Zotero, which if it's your citation manager that you use, might be really good. I really love Insightful papers. And as I said, if you want, you can just keep adding more articles like this, and then it will create that Franken paper, as I like to call it, that will give you more accurate or more like targeted suggestions. Okay, so this is one way of using Insightful. The other way of using Insightful is a little bit different, and it's really useful if you do interdisciplinary research and you want to see how 2 articles connect to each other or if they connect to each other. So in the example that I will show you, second, I'm just going to share the citations with you. Second. So what I'm going to show you is 2 articles that, we might not think that they are related, but we will be surprised, and they are. Okay, so I just put the two articles in the chat if you want to follow along. Again, if you don't, totally fine. And I'm going to paste my first article, and I'm going to paste my second article. And just click search. So the two articles that I have are The Meaning of the Digital Humanities, and then the other one is Selling Feminism, How Female Empowerment Campaigns Employ Post-Feminist Discourses. They don't seem to be very related when I read them or when I read the titles. But when I look at my graph, I see that they do have things in common. So this is a way of connecting this literature that, you know, may look like it's not connected, and see if we find ways of connecting this knowledge. Again, depending on what you're doing, oh, sorry, what did I do here? Depending on what you're doing, it might not be something that really that you really need to worry about. But if you're doing research that is interdisciplinary, I don't know what I did with this. I lost the graph. If you're doing research that is interdisciplinary, this may be a really good tool, something to use. I'm just going to try to refresh this and see if I can, yeah, there we go. I just built my graph again. So what I'm seeing right now, and you can manipulate this, is that there are articles that these two articles had in common. So there are other articles that these two articles had in common. And I can try to follow that knowledge path. Again, not useful for everyone, but some of you may actually find it useful. Awesome. Okay. Don't see any questions. I see a question. Someone's asking if this tool can be used for gray literature searching. No, it's only for published peer-reviewed articles, unfortunately. If something is maybe on PubMed and it's not like, it's like a white paper or something like that, it might be showing up, but it's only for peer-reviewed articles or things that have been published. Okay, perfect. So I'm just gonna move on. Again, we're trying to get everything in, but we do have a question. How do we get to the knowledge path? It is, I'm just going to go back to the Insightful page, is you would put your two articles on the right-hand side of Insightful. So you put one here, and then it will actually create the knowledge path for you. Perfect. Okay. So next up, we have connected papers. Connected papers, it's going to look very similar to what we had with Insightful. Like the first search that we did, it was just going to show us an article graph, but they divide their, instead of having similar and more important, what they show you are papers that are most commonly cited by the papers in the graph. So those are prior works, and then derivative works. So papers that cite many of the papers in the graph. Okay. So let's go and take a quick peek. I'm just going to use the first article that we use just for time, and I'm going to put it in the chat again so that you can see it. And I mentioned I will be sending the slides with all the links and everything. So just so you have it. So I'm just going to put it here. Going to build my graph. Again, looks very similar, except that instead of purples and pinks, we have greens and teals and grayish colors. So we have my prior works are those that are usually cited by the papers in the graph. They're not the papers in the graph. They're cited by the papers in the graph. And then for derivative works, we're going to be looking at papers that cite many of the papers in the graph. So they could be either more recent relevant works or surveys of the field. Have another question? Yes, I will share the recording. Someone's asking if I will share the recording. The recording will be on our YouTube channel. So yes, it will be shared. So we do have, so this is connected paper. It's a little bit simpler. It doesn't do as much, but it's another way. Some people prefer how you can see, you know, you can click on an article and it will give you the information on the right-hand side. It's really up to you which one you like more. I find that Insightful gives you a bit more information, but some people may just prefer how this is organized a little bit more. Okay, I know we went through this one really quickly. It's just there's not that much to it, and I just want to make sure that we have time for everything else. Okay. Next up, we have Research Rabbit. It's a research rabbit hole, and that's
best way we can explain it. You can import and export to Zotero, which is really great. I will suggest authors and papers for you. If you this one is pretty pretty common, and you might have heard of it. I know that we have a question about connected papers. I promise I'll get back to it, but I just want to make sure that we are following along. So this one, you will need to log in. You can do it if you have, I guess I have an account. You can remember, sometimes you need a Google account. I know that for Illicit, which is something else we're going to use, we need an Illicit account. But this one, I guess I just create an account. Back when I first signed up, there was a wait list for Research Rabbit. I don't think there is one anymore, but just something for you to know. So let's say I'm going to use something that I already have, because I like to import. You can import from Zotero, so you can just import things. You click on import from Zotero, and just, or you can add papers in different ways. But the way I like it to do it the best is just adding papers from Zotero, where you just click here, and then it connects to my Zotero library, and I can actually just sync it. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm afraid my computer will just explode. But just know that you go to import the Zotero collection. It will first ask you to connect it to your Zotero, and then you can do it from there. But okay, so this is, these are my articles that I have in this collection. And then what I do is when I put an article here, it gives me similar works, all the references or all the citations. So I can choose what I want to do. So if I click on similar work, it's going to give me another article graph. And then maybe I can choose another one and then look at similar work for that one. So there we go. So see how it's Research Rabbit, because that's like you go into a rabbit hole in a little bit. So it can be a little bit confusing at times, but it might help you sort of track a particular theory or a particular framework through time with this tool. So I like it for that. They're not as transparent with the algorithm. You can email them and ask them, and they will share it or give you more information, but it's not as clear as others that you may find. I'll just want to show you. You can also explore people. It's very fun, but I find it sometimes a little bit hard to sort of get back to where I wanted or my original place. But for some of you, this may actually be really useful, and you may know this. It's not as structured, I would say, in the way it looks like as others that we have looked at, but it's a really useful tool. I really like it for that idea of like following a theory, following a particular line of inquiry through time. So this was Research Rabbit. Okay, we have questions. Who can import export to Zotero libraries? Can we share searches with other team members, or is it meant for individual accounts? I'll be very honest, I do not know. My guess is that you can't, that these are individual accounts. That being said, you could create a team Research Rabbit. And then, or either do that or export things to Zotero. I think it's just, because I don't see there's no collaboration, at least for now. But well, I guess it is. I'm lying. You can actually let's check this live. Let's see if I can share a collection. Yes, you can actually share a collection and give permission. So I was lying. I apologize. So you can actually share a collection and give it to and share it with some of your researchers or your fellow researchers. So this is actually quite nice, and it's an option that the other ones don't have. It's also a lot more dynamic than some of the other options that we looked at. So that is a little extra that we can get with the Research Rabbit. Okay, I'm going to show you the last one that I have for this section of the workshop. I know that someone's asking if Research Rabbit works with EndNote, and no. So what you're going to find is that most of these tools are open and are free. they like to go for other things that are open and free, and EndNote isn't. So they will work with things like EndNote, sorry, with Zotero, for example, because it's open and free. That being said, if you can export things and if you'll export things into an RIS file, you might be able to open it with EndNote, or you might be able to easily convert it to EndNote. So it would take a little bit more work on your part, but you could technically do that. And a lot of them, I wish I hadn't closed it, have the option of exporting in formats that allow you to choose an EndNote, or will take you to pages where you can actually get that EndNote like EndNote file to add it. It's just that you might not be able to do it as a bunch. Okay. The last one that we have in this section is elicit. This one I learned about like 2 weeks ago. So apologies if I don't know anything. It uses GPT-3, which again, it's a friend of ChatGPT, and it works on tasks. So it has a few tasks that it will do, and they have 2 types. There's the elicit tasks. These are the ones that the software created, or the people who developed this page created. Which one of them is it shows relevant papers and summaries of key information about those papers when you enter a research question, and it can help you brainstorm research questions. But they also have a whole bunch of user-created tasks. Let me just send you the URL for elicit.org. And I just realized I did not send you the link to Research Rabbit, and I'm sorry about that. Okay, I have elicit.org. For this one, you do need to log in. I logged in with just a Gmail account. I didn't need anything more than that. So you can upload papers. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm going to show you how to just enter a research question. So I'm going to use this research question. I'm going to send it to you as well. It's a core research question that I already tested, because I always like to test things before I teach them. There we go. So this is my questions. My research question was, what are student attitudes regarding Wikipedia assignments? I wanted to see, because I have an article on this, so I wanted to see if my article would show up, and it did. It's right over here. And then it doesn't give you all the articles. It gives you what it considers like the most important articles, or things that like, you know, the most useful articles. One thing I really liked about this is that, you know, right now it's just showing me the abstract summary, but I can also ask it to add intervention and the outcomes measured and the number of participants. So let's look at my article, which is this one over here. If I click on it, I get some more information. So I have what outcomes did we measure? Who were our population? Our population were kinesiology and physical education students. Can I trust this paper? I would say yes, because I wrote it, but you know, the study was a survey. They looked at, you know, they looked at how the paper has been cited, and they couldn't find any criticisms of the methodology. It shows some of our citations. And then if we come here, if you have chosen all of this, and then you just toggle, you just use the arrows on your keyboard, it will give you like the information. So how many people, there we go. How many participants, what the intervention was, and the outcomes measured. This is like an education / library science article. So you may not have like the methodology or the intervention and some of the outcomes might not be as clear as if you were, I don't know, doing the medicine thing. But I can show, this just shows you that it works, and it gives you an idea of what this tool can actually do for you. So it's really nice if you're starting to explore, if you want to know more about these articles, if you want to get little summaries of the articles. I'll show you another way that we can also get summaries. So this one could actually be in part 1 or part 2 of this workshop, or section 1, section 2, but I decided to put it here. So this is one of the things that it can do. There's another thing. If you go here, if you come here to tasks, there's another thing that it can do for you. So we did this one first, the review, explore, research questions. It can also help you brainstorm research questions. So maybe you're not sure what you want to do, but you want to come up with that research question. It logs up at some point. I will explain what it does. Okay, what it does while we're doing this. So you enter a few keywords and then we'll come up with possible research questions for your topic, if it ever like shows up. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. But let's say I had a student, I was inspired by a student, so I looked for dramaturg and teacher education, and you can get, what is the role of the dramaturg in teacher education? Why it's important to teach drama in teacher education. So there are different ways, it just suggests different things. Just in the interest of time, I'm just going to keep moving a little bit, and then we'll try to come back to it. And then these are tools created by others. So they're not created by Alyssa, they're created by others. But some of them are kind of fun to work with. Not all of them are great. And not all of them are super useful, but some of them are actually kind of fun to use. There's one that I really like, just rephrase. So it can give you it can rephrase things for you. Abstract formalization, you can put an abstract. Let's see if it'll work. Seems like there's something going on with the website. But you paste an abstract in there and then it'll just summarize it for you in like a few lines. There's one that I like that this one I really like that I tested. It says reason from one claim to another. So for example, it will show the train of thought or the chain of thoughts to get from one claim to another. So if we put, for example, smoking causes cancer to raising the tax of to the tax on cigarettes, it will show you like what the thought process should be for one thing to another. Helping be more specific. It's another one that I found really useful. It will, you write something and it will show you to make it more specific. They vary to me in terms of usefulness and how successful they are. But they're fun to play with. And unfortunately, I don't know why they're not opening for us, but it's okay. All this to say, these two are the ones that they put together, the ones that they recommend. This one, you need to use more trial and error. So everything that's others. And just to remind you, because you might not be on a list with me right now, but for the future, you can find them here when you go to tasks, and then it will give you the list. We'll do one more test. You know what? I'm going to let it think while we continue, and then just in case it shows up or the content shows up, but we will just keep going and then come back to it. Okay. So let's talk a bit about, the third part of our workshop, which is leaving the work to AI. Alyssa does a little bit of this, but I want to share a few other sources that I like, or not sources, but tools that I like. So these ones are Scholarly, Cite, and Paper Digest. As a disclaimer, I will say that Cite is a paid tool. It does have a free trial, but it is a paid tool. So I'll have that disclaimer. So, do with that what you want. But the first one I'm going to look Scholarly, which does have a paid version. I don't know what it's meant to do. This one I'm not going to send the link for because you need to install a plugin. So I'm just going to show you what it does. And then you can once you get the slides, you can get the link from there if you want to download it. So here I have an article from the College and Research Libraries Journal. And if you look at my screen right here, I have a little plugin. So when I click on it, something happens, and then it is going to summarize the article for me. So I have a little bit a very short summary, and then it gives me some of my key concepts. Again, trial and error. Sometimes it works better than others. And then I get the abstract. I think it might be my internet now. It'll give me a synopsis. What are some of the highlights of the, okay. So I have a synopsis, some of the highlights of the article, another summary. So someone's asking me to share the link. I'll say again, I'm not going to share the link for this one. You will get it when you get the slides, just because it's a plugin that you need to download. And we will not have time to do that, but the link will be on, it's on the slides that I will share either today or tomorrow. Okay, You get the full text, you get the intro. Now, this journal that I'm looking at right now is open access, but I've tried it too with journals that we have behind a paywall at McGill, so behind our McGill subscriptions, and it works just fine. So just something for you to know that it works just fine as well. So it's not like the flashiest of tools, but it might be useful. And then you can always download it to, it's kind of nice because they changed it. Before you could only download it to like a plain text file, but now you can actually download it either to Word or PowerPoint. So that might be a really useful thing if you want to keep them that way. So this is just Scholarly, which is kind of useful. Okay. Elicit is not eliciting a response. Okay. For Cite, I'm just going to show you what I have here, just because it is a paid service and I'm out of my free trial. So it creates publication reports. I'll show you what it looks like. What I like about this tool is that it categorizes citations in 3 groups: supporting, mentioning, and contrasting. It also will suggest related articles. As I said, they have a very limited free version. They have a 7-day free trial. If you think like this, like I think it's about maybe $20 a month or something like that. Kind of hoping that like they lower the price a little bit. But like if it's something that you want to invest for just like the 1 month, get it done, and that's it. That's also something that you might be able to do. I always choose to share it because you could go into that 7-day free trial and see if it works for you. And also because it's a good tool. So I'm going to move to the slideshow just so you can see it a little bit bigger. So let's say I looked for an article. This is what it looks like. Say I only have 2 days left in my free preview. So see here, it's showing me the citations, but it's labeling them as contrasting in this case. So this is showing me articles that are citing my original article, but are being either critical or contrasting that information. So they're not necessarily supporting what the original article says. If we move on to the next one, you see that here I have supporting. So these are articles that are citing my original article and are supporting what it's saying. So are in agreement with what I am saying or what the article that I really liked is saying. And then it just show you the ones that just plainly mention it, because we have sometimes that. So it gives you more context to those, to those citation maps that we've seen. It just gives you more context of those citation reports. Again, is it a total need? No, it's kind of nice, and you can always test it and see if it works for you and go from there. Cite, again, it is a paid product, unfortunately. It's not super expensive, but it's a paid product. The last one that I have here, I'm gonna open it and show it to you, is called Paper Digest. And it does something similar to what Scholarly does, that it just summarizes your paper. This one I'm going to share the link with you. Okay, but it only works with certain articles, particularly open access articles. So that's the drawback, that it will only do that. However, this is actually new, so register to summarize PDF articles from your local folder. So it might be that if you upload your own PDF article, it will actually analyze it for you and will do something similar. I'm just going to click on any of this just to show you what it looks like. Again, it just uses AI to summarize that. It's a little bit of a different one than Scholarly. I haven't tested where you register and you can upload your PDF, so I'm wondering how that works. But it's another way for you to, get like little summaries of your papers, so that then you can go on and choose whether you want to read the whole thing or not. And this is Paper Digest. Again, everything is linked on the slides. Okay. I think from now on, it can actually stay on the slideshow. So this, okay. So just a few other tools that I personally like that you may find useful. So text to speech. So if you are someone who feels like they learn better when they're listening to things, there are a few tools that you can use. There's a Speechify, which is actually a paid tool that will read things to you when you can choose the voice and things like that. And it sounds a bit more human, I would say. But Chrome has a plugin that's called Read Aloud, and you can just install it on your browser and it will read aloud for you. It's a little bit robotic, but it's free. And then this is something that I personally like to do. So I have a really hard time catching typos. And what I like to do is I use Google Docs for proofreading, because I put it on the text to speech, so it reads to me while it highlights the word, and it's very easy for me to find if there's a typo. So instead of meat, I wrote if instead of writing meat from meeting someone, I write meat as in actual meat, the food. So I find that really useful if you use it on Google Docs. I personally really like it. And then otherwise I like to go reading like a robot, which is I read things like a robot trying to find typos. So this kind of saves me a little bit of time in doing that. I see that someone shared another tool. So we'll talk about a little bit more. There we go.
Yeah, I just mentioned it because I mentioned that one list was all men.
Oh, yes. Okay.
This
Awesome.
is a tool some people I know created. It just shows the probable gender of the first and last authors.
Oh, that's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. They also
I think what I'll do is we'll add it to the slide when I send the email, add it to the slideshow as well, just so that you can have it. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. There's also a tool for taking your reference list and then guessing the gender balance, like making a citation diversity statement. Not exactly the same as looking for literature, but I could link.
But it's useful nonetheless. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. So these are just our, quick. And then the last one, which is not even it's not even that earth-shattering, but you would be surprised, is if you're not using citation management software, please start using citation management software. So this is your EndNotes, your Zoteros, your Mentalite doesn't exist anymore, I think, but anything that you choose to use, they save you so much time. You can be organized. You can create bibliographies, which is the best thing that they do. At McGill, we support EndNote and Zotero. Depending on what your field is, one will make more sense than the other. We have workshops for both. So I have put the links to those. And then if you click on more trainings, I have links to video, self-guided trainings on video, because in the summer we don't offer as many, but also because you might be someone who would rather just do it on your own. So I have put those in there as well to help you with that. So, but yes, if you're not using citation management software, please start. Your life will be so much better. So much better. For EndNote, EndNote is paid. McGill pays for it for you. So you have EndNote. If you're a McGill student, a McGill faculty member, McGill staff, you have access to EndNote for free. And then Zotero is an open, it's an open source program, so anyone can use it. I think we have a question. Okay, so someone is asking, for health sciences, do you recommend Zotero or EndNote? I will recommend EndNote. I will say that I personally use Zotero. There's a lot of things I really love about it, but especially if you're at McGill and you're doing in the sciences, they will tend to use more EndNote. If you're doing things like systematic reviews, scoping reviews, EndNote is really handy because it manages duplicates in a way that's a little bit better than the way Zotero will manage them. So that's why I stick to EndNote. Perfect. Okay. So any questions about what we talked about? I know I promised I'm going to go back to connected papers because someone had a question about that. So I just want to make sure that I share that. I'm going to stop recording and then we will get to questions or discuss anything that you want to discuss. Okay. So let me just stop.